guys, welcome to episode 19 of Sketch Support. Today I've got another free one-page sketch that you can download at scrapbookgeneration.com, and in this video I'm going to share 4 layouts that I've created all based on that same one-page sketch. If you are new here, hi, my name is Allison Davis, and I am a scrapbooker and sketch artist for my family's scrapbook store, Scrapbook Generation, located in Springfield, Missouri. If you enjoy scrapbooking and sketches, you might want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and you'll definitely want to check out our store, scrapbookgeneration.com, or stop by for a visit if you are ever in the Springfield area. This sketch support series is all about showing how you can adapt and customize scrapbook sketches to work better for your specific needs. Sketches are one of the most valuable tools you can have to help you create layouts faster and without that struggle of trying to come up with a layout design. And there's a variety of ways you can use them. It is not a one-size-fits-all situation. You can follow them exactly as they are, or you can change a little here or there, or you can end up with a layout that looks nothing like the sketch. And that's one of the great things about sketches. They are not a rule to be followed. They are simply a starting point, and it's up to you how much you replicate and how much you don't. Along with the free sketch you'll see in this video, I also have a 3-page PDF available that shows 23 more sketch options, all based on this one sketch. It's a really good visual of some of the adaptations you can make to this particular sketch to better fit your needs. And I also have a new sketch bundle that we just added to the store a few weeks ago that includes 10 one-page sketches that all feature one photo. So I will add links down below in the description for the free sketch, the 3-page sketch options PDF, and the new sketches that I just mentioned. I also wanted to mention 2 things really quickly about Instagram. If you don't follow me already, you might want to go ahead and do that. I've been sharing a lot of reels lately, which are short 1-minute videos. I'm posting videos of layouts and sketches and things about Scrapbook Generation and my life, so you might want to check those out. Also, if you share your layouts on Instagram and you happen to use one of our sketches, be sure to use the hashtag AllisonDavisSketches or Scrapbook Generation Sketches. We always love to see your layouts, and I like to share them to my page so others can see them as well. So let's go ahead and get this video started with a look at the new one-page sketch that I've used as the starting point for each layout in this video. When designing this sketch, I started with the photos. I knew that I wanted to do something with horizontal photos because looking back at past one-page sketches, you can see that I tend to use vertical photos a lot more often. And I wanted to make sure that I mix up those photo sizes and arrangements. So that was a little challenge I gave myself when designing this one, that I had to use horizontal photos. There are 3 4x3-inch photos that are arranged staggered and slightly overlapped. Then behind them are 3 larger background strips. On the left side of the photos, there is an embellishment cluster with a small title, and then there is this wavy stitched line that has butterflies all over it. To me, there are 2 main areas where you can really have a lot of fun with this sketch. The first is the obvious, this wavy line with the butterflies. And it doesn't have to be a stitched line. You can work in a themed element. You can use a cluster of embellishments arranged in a wavy line, or you can simplify it with just a straight line. There's a lot of room for your imagination and creativity to play around there. And this would be a great place to show movement for action themes like sports or kids running around and playing or someone jumping, things like that. The second area where you can have some fun with a few changes is to those background pieces. You can use strips or squares or a themed element or shapes. You can simplify it with one piece or remove them altogether. There's a lot you can do with that background. And you'll see in just a little bit how I did 4 completely different looks with that background. Before I jump into the layouts, really quick, I want to ask you to tell me what kind of sketches would you like to see more of for these sketch support sketches? Do you want more photos or less photos, or maybe a specific size of photo or particular design concepts? I would love to hear from you in the comments about what kind of sketches you would like to see. For my first layout, I made a lot of minor changes, but still stayed very close to the original sketch design. For my background pieces, the first 2 pieces are exactly as they are on the sketch, but the top one, I ended up using this die cut piece that came with the paper collection that I used. It's got the postage stamped edge and it had a quote in the middle. I loved the decorative edge and thought that would be a unique way to slightly change up the background design without having to make any big alterations to it. The size of it is a little different than the piece on the sketch. It's a little shorter and a little wider, but that's really not a big deal to work into this design. The biggest issue I ran into was that I didn't want the quote to show, and my photos were not going to cover all of it because I ended up using smaller photos than the 4x3" photos on the sketch. With this set of photos, I started with 3 3x3" photos, and I used some die cut Polaroid style frames that came with this paper collection. 2 of the frames perfectly fit my photos, but one was a little smaller, so I cut the airplane photo down to fit that smaller frame, and I tried to arrange the photos close to how they are on the sketch. I also strategically placed my photos so that the bottom one is Jackson pointing to the plane in the middle photo, and then with the top photo, I placed a wooden airplane right in Jackson's line of view so that it looks like he is actually looking right at that plane. Since my photos didn't completely cover that quote on the die cut background piece, I added a bunch of tickets and stickers tucked slightly under the right side of the photos to help me cover the rest of that quote up. And I was really glad it worked out that way because I thought these tickets were really, really cute. For my embellishment cluster on the left, I used 2 speech bubbles for my title, since that is exactly what Jackson said to me when these photos were taken. I thought that was a fun way to highlight his words. When it came to the wavy line, I changed it up quite a bit, and it's so funny because these photos were the first I thought to use, and I was so excited to create a wavy stitched line with these little planes, and then I didn't end up doing that. It's always so interesting how our ideas shift and shape as we are creating our layouts. So the reason I didn't go with a wavy line and instead created a cluster of planes and clouds and stars all had to do with the background paper I used. When I saw this paper, I immediately wanted to stitch on those loopy lines, and I knew it was the perfect base paper for this layout. And I love how the darker color really made those light colors of the background paper stand out. So after making that choice and adding the stitching, adding another stitched wavy line just felt unnecessary and possibly a little too much. I've already got all these wavy wavy and looping lines everywhere, and it felt like creating a straight line of these planes was a better balance to that. For my planes, I used a combination of die cuts, stickers, wooden planes, an enamel one, and then I hand cut a few clouds and added in a few stars. My second layout, just like the first, has several changes from the sketch, but you can still see the general design concept of the sketch. This one also had an interesting leap from the original plan to the finished layout. When I am creating, I try not to marry myself to an idea and instead work through my process with an open mind. I try not to force ideas that aren't coming together, and I like to play and experiment and see where my imagination takes me. Sometimes the original idea hits, and sometimes it doesn't come together the way you envisioned, and you just have to roll with the punches. With this layout, a tiny part of the original plan ended up becoming a huge part of the layout. It's so funny how things go sometimes during that creative process. So my original plan was to create a scene for the background, which I did do. But my original plan, I wanted to combine the 3 background pieces on the sketch into one, and then have a few fringe strips of green pattern paper across the bottom, and then the rest of the background would be blue pattern paper with cloud embellishments throughout. But I just really liked the green fringe strips, and so I kept adding more and more and more until I was all the way to the top of the layout. To help the strips look like grass, I roughed up the edges of the fringe just a little and then curled some of them down. Then I added some flowers, bees, and ladybug stickers all throughout the fringe design. With this set of photos, I had 3 5x3-inch photos, which are only 1 inch wider than the photos on the sketch. So there wasn't a whole lot that I had to adjust to help them fit. I did extend the size of my background just a little more so that more of that grass was showing. Other than that, no other adaptations were needed for the larger photos. For the wavy line, I created a hose with water spraying out the end. To make the hose, I used my silhouette to cut the hose out of cardstock. I used a light gray for the hose and then a darker, kind of glittery gray for the nozzle. So a garden hose has texture, and I wanted to create the illusion of that on my cardstock hose. So I used a stencil and some ink to add the chevron pattern along that wavy piece, hoping it would kind of take on a similar textured look. Then I wrapped some memory thread around the end near the nozzle. And if you don't know what memory thread is, it's a wire that's been coated in thread, and I don't think they make it anymore, which makes me really sad because it's awesome. You can bend it and curl it, and it works so well for little details like this. For the water spraying out the end of the hose, I used my silhouette to cut out water droplets in 3 different pattern papers in 3 different shades of blue. I added a hand stitch border around the larger pieces and then adhered them with foam adhesive to give that burst of water some dimension. Then I used my favorite Nuvo Jewel Drops in Sea Breeze to add some realistic looking droplets all over this spray of water. Since I had this big burst of water over here on the right, I didn't feel like I needed that embellishment cluster on the left. Instead, I went with a bigger title that curves along that wavy line. My third layout looks quite a bit different from the sketch, but again, I do think you can see the core design concept. There's the background, the photo placement, and the embellishments going across the page. This one is a good example of taking a sketch and letting it be a starting point that you work your own ideas into. And that's the fun of sketches. You can follow them exactly, or you can take pieces of it and work them around the photos you want to use, the supplies you have on hand, or your own ideas. There are endless possibilities with sketches. When I picked out this photo and matched it with this Simple Stories collection, ideas using hexagons immediately popped in my head. I absolutely love creating designs with hexagons and will practically find an excuse to use them anytime I can. Just like the last layout, I combined the 3 background pieces on the sketch, and I used hexagons to build a background that covers close to the same general area as the background pieces on the sketch do. That's always a good guideline for changing up details on a sketch. If you like the design of a sketch, but you want to customize it or change it up without losing the design concept of that sketch, just try to place things in the same general area. You still get the look of the sketch without it looking exactly like the sketch. I used 2 different sizes of hexagons. The large one is punched out of a flower pattern paper, and then I layered a smaller orange hexagon on top. I thought the orange was a good match to the orange in Drew's Little Romper. For my photo, this time I was working with a single 4x6 photo. This was really an easy photo substitution. The 4x6 photo easily takes the place of the top 2 4x3 photos on the sketch, since they are the same measurement when combined. And then I let my larger title fill in the space for the third 4x3 photo. Using a single larger photo in place of 2 smaller photos is always a great way to change out photos to better fit your needs. Instead of creating that wavy line, I arranged a bunch of flowers to kind of frame that photo. I wanted it to look like Drew was surrounded in spring. And while it looks nothing like the wavy line on the sketch, it does cover the same general area, especially when combined with the title. If I cover up the bottom photo on the sketch, you can kind of see how this layout does have a similar look to the sketch and the wavy line placement. To bring a lot of texture and dimension to all of these flowers, I used foam adhesive to adhere some of the smaller pieces. I also added in some hand stitching and used some enamel dots for the center of a few flowers and some Nuvo drops for the centers as well. The last change I made was moving my journaling. There's so much empty space in the top half of the photo, so I thought that would be a great place for my journaling. I also added a little sun and cloud to finish out the spring look of the layout. For the last layout, I always like to show how you can use the sketch for a different size of layout. The size of the sketch can be adapted just like the details on the sketch. One-page sketches can make great 2-page layouts with just a few adaptations. You can stretch and extend and add more photos and easily turn it into a 2-page layout. For my 2-page layout, I used 2 of the main details from the 1-page sketch mixed with my own design ideas. On the right page, you can see that I used the same photo arrangement as the 1-page sketch, but slightly altered to fit my needs. The photos that I wanted to use in this area worked better as a square, so I went with 3.5 by 3.5 for those, and then arranged them almost exactly as you see on the sketch. And I moved them to the right side of the layout because of the direction of my mom in the photos. I wanted her to be facing towards the middle of the layout and not facing off the layout. And a little trick to fixing the direction someone is facing, if you need to, with these photos, one of them, she was facing the opposite direction. But when I was editing the photos, most photo editing software will have an option to flip the photo horizontally or vertically. And it's an easy way to correct the direction someone is facing if you need to do that for a layout. So since I had 2 photos of her facing the left, I went ahead and flipped the third one so that they all matched. For my embellishments around these photos, I still somewhat followed the sketch. There's a little more there, but I stayed close to the same placements as the sketch. The biggest difference to that area was I moved the title, and it's quite a bit larger than the title on the sketch. This bottom photo has a lot of empty space, so it gave me a lot more room to overlap onto the photo and arrange my title there. The other detail that I put a lot of focus on from the sketch is that wavy line. Instead of just using the one wavy line, I used several grouped together to create a large wavy background across the whole layout. This was mostly inspired by the papers. And speaking of the papers, it is not often that you get to make a layout about a person with papers that person actually designed. My mom and her love for both piano playing and scrapbooking inspired her to create this paper collection. This is an exclusive collection to Scrapbook Generation, and it is so beautiful. It's perfect for not just piano, but music in general, and it includes papers for 12 other instruments as well. It's really a wonderful, wonderful collection, and the pre-order for it ended earlier this week, but we will have it at Scrapbook Generation soon, so definitely keep your eyes out for that. I think you will really like it. It is absolutely beautiful. The piano keys across the bottom are part of a pattern paper that has this arrangement of piano keys in a wavy line. And this was so perfect for the sketch. So I cut along the wavy line and then used that cut as my template for the other pattern papers on the layout. So I added 3 more papers above the piano keys and then another small one at the top of the layout. Then to go with my music theme, I swapped out those butterflies on the sketch for glittery music notes and sequins. I used my silhouette to cut out the music notes, and then I adhered them with foam adhesive. I also added a little punched heart on some of the notes. There's also some stitching on the black line behind the notes, but it's kind of hard to see in pictures and video. For the rest of the photos on my layout, I tucked them slightly behind the piano keys paper, and then I moved my journaling over to the left edge of those photos. With my journaling, it felt like no matter how I put it into words, it just never seemed to accurately paint the picture of what it was like to wake up each Sunday to my mom playing the piano. So I decided to take advantage of technology and go a step further than just telling the story, and made it so that you can actually hear what I did in my childhood days. And to do that, I created a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and it will take you to a 13-minute video of my mom playing various songs on the piano. I pulled the audio from several videos that she had posted on Facebook and put it all together in one video. And it's a little sneak peek into what my Sunday morning alarm clock sounded like. If you want to see the video, you can just scan the code with your phone. I'll add a link to the video down below if you guys want to go check it out and hear my mom play on the piano. Making the QR code was really quite easy. I uploaded the video to YouTube and set it as unlisted, so you can only access it via the QR code or a direct link. Then I went to a website called QR Code Monkey, and I'll link to it down below as well. This is a website that has a free QR code generator. So to make my code, I added the link to the appropriate box at QR Code Monkey, and it generated the code that I could then download. After I downloaded the code, I uploaded it to Photoshop to crop it down to the size I needed for my layout. And then I just printed it on photo paper and adhered it to my layout. It really was very simple and very easy to do. And how cool that you can do this with your scrapbook layouts and attach videos to go with your scrapbooks. It's perfect for memories like this that words just don't seem to do it justice. So that's all for this episode of Sketch Support. Don't forget to let me know in the comments of what kind of sketches you would like to see. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.